I was dealing with fear. Fear of what? Fear of being seen. Oh, I don't know what people are going to think about me. I don't know if I'm even prepared for it. So if you're seeing yourself doubting in your abilities to start something, then it might be that you lack the necessary information about that particular thing. The conversation we're going to be having is basically about how I got from hesitation to action. I'm grateful that I took this opportunity to give myself permission to take action. Hello, beautiful and handsome souls. Welcome to the Everything Not Perfect podcast, and I am your host, Lee. This is a safe space for you and I to break free and uplift others as we'll engage in the tough but healthy conversations where we learn and unlearn everything not perfect that makes us humans. I am excited, guys. The podcast is happening. Gosh, it's been a long time coming, and honestly, I have been hesitating to start this podcast for a very long time. And now that it's happening, honestly, this was not the plan I had in mind for my first episode. But it's as a result of that, I'm very hyped about what we're going to be talking about in this episode. The conversation we're going to be having is basically about how I got from hesitation to action. And this, which was not planned that I'm doing now, is literally me acting. And I'm very proud of myself, honestly. I'm grateful that I took this opportunity to give myself permission to take action. And it has been something that has been very hard for me to do, considering now that my mindset was not the way it is now. But yes, this is something I want to really unpack in this conversation, because at some point with this realization I now have about how difficult it can be for one to really start something, it made me really go to that point where I had to think about how it really started, like how I got from hesitation to action. And honestly, the knowledge I have now that I'm going to pour out into this particular conversation was not something I had before I started my journey of starting the podcast. Like the genesis of it all was not something I had figured out. I was just doing my best to just get to a point of not being hesitant anymore to start. And there were things that I literally did that made me to gradually get to this point that I'm at now. And all these things is what I want to talk about, because these days everybody is having plans, ideas that are so beautiful that we want to get out there in a form of business or a form of a project, which is something we feel can be so impactful to others and our lives as well. But as much as it can be so beautiful for us to have the ideas, I feel like it can be frustrating as well, even to us, seeing that we don't get to, give these ideas, these plans live by literally just putting them out there, right? And that frustration can even be transferred to the people around us that normally listen to us nag about all these ideas that we have, and also the problems that are causing us to be hesitant. Well, guess what? Being hesitant is something I've come to realize that it's a very natural thing that can literally happen to anybody, as long as you are in that path of, oh, I have ideas and I want to execute them. You are going to have challenges that are going to cause you to be hesitant. But so far so good with all the knowledge I have now about how one can be aware of the things that are causing you to be hesitant and literally use them as an advantage to help yourself be prepared and not too over prepared to the point that you are not doing anything anymore and now you are missing opportunities. You are at a point where you're even sabotaging yourself because your self-confidence is being deteriorated all the time when you are procrastinating. And of course, lack of growth is something that you are going to be led to, because naturally when you don't get started, you are definitely not going to grow. And how can you grow? When you put yourself out there and start gaining the experience. And if you're not doing all of this, then hesitation can be something that can negatively affect your life. And I don't want that for you, because that's something I've been running away from. And thank God I'm at a point where I've literally started to do the thing. And I just want to help you guys to understand how I got from hesitation to action. So how do I plan on doing this? So basically, I do believe that it's all in the mind, right? So of course, we're going to dive into the concept of hesitation. This is necessary for you to be aware about in a very deeper level, because you knowing that hesitation is something that exists and it can happen to everybody is not enough. I feel like the awareness is where you really get to understand what causes hesitation in the first place. And with that knowledge, I want to dive into the four obstacles that you are naturally going to be faced with that can give you a reason to want to be hesitant for a very long time. These are obstacles that I faced as well on my journey of starting this podcast. So I can't wait to really unpack everything that has been an obstacle for me and how I overcome them. And that's where I'm going to share with you actionable solutions that you can literally apply in your life, in whatever thing that you want to get started with, that can help you to eliminate the reasons that can cause you to be hesitant for a short period of time or for a long period of time. Either ways, hesitation na hesitation, but me not go one for it TD, because as much as it can be beneficial, you don't want to be doing it for a very very long time, and then you can be missing all the opportunities that you might just grasp if you just decide to take action. So with no further ado, guys, let's try to tap into the gritty nitty part of this conversation. So the definition of hesitation: hesitation is a pause or delay in taking action or making decisions, often due to uncertainty, fear, or doubt. Okay, so this is it. Now, the definition is of hesitation. When I literally had to ponder on this definition, I was like, oh, all right, that's the reason why when I started this whole journey of starting the podcast, I was literally at a point where I wasn't so clear if I should, just start right away, because I was dealing with fear. Fear of what? Fear of being seen, first off. I had my own inner struggles, right? And naturally, if you have inner struggles of, oh, I don't know what people are going to think about me, I don't know if I'm even prepared for it, or everybody might be doing this thing, what tendencies are there for me to really just do things well and have people to watch me, and all this, like things like this were rotating in my head like that. And all of this was as a result of fear. I really never trusted in my abilities like that. So if I had fear eating me up before now, of course I would be delaying to make decision. And if you see yourself doing this, just know that you are not delaying to make decisions or take actions about starting your business or starting that project just because you want to. You are not sabotaging yourself. This is something that can naturally happen to you as a result of these three things: uncertainty, fear, or doubt. And it can be rooted from so many places. Sometimes it can be things that are internally rooted within us that we are definitely going to want to deal with if we want to really get to that point of starting. And these are things I had to deal with myself. But let's tap into the four obstacles, right? Where we're going to understand in a deeper level how these four obstacles can literally make you get more reasons to want to be hesitant for a very long period of time. And these four obstacles are related to these three things that we talked about in the definition. So the first obstacle is self-doubt in your abilities. Self-doubt in your abilities is something that you are naturally going to be faced with when you're on your journey of starting something new. Because guess what? Now something new. If you're starting something new, you are going to, of course, doubt in yourself if you are capable to make the moves or take the actions that are going to make you succeed, because you are starting something to succeed at it, right? And you want to get things right, and you don't want to be at a position where you are making the wrong moves or doing things in a way that is just going to slow you down, or even make you get to a point where you don't want to even experience the cringe of making mistakes and all that stuff. So there's obviously going to be that self-doubt in you, considering now that it's the first time you're going to do this thing, and you're going to ask yourself questions like, am I ready to do this? Do I even deserve to be in this type of position? Am I capable to take on this type of project or to take on this type of venture of starting this business? What do I have to offer? Things like these are questions that you're going to entertain, and it's natural for you to have questions like this. Honestly, it's really natural for you to have questions like this. But the bottom line is, you are not just entertaining all these questions because you want to entertain them. There are certain things that are influencing the self-doubt that you have within yourself naturally if you are starting something new. And these three things are what we're going to tap into and unpack the more, because if you know exactly what you can do about these three things that is causing you to have self-doubt, then I do believe that gradually you can be at a position where you can eliminate the tendencies for these particular three things to hold you back that is causing you to have self-doubt in your abilities. The first one is lack of information. So naturally, when we start my podcast, it was something new, right? As I mentioned. And lack of information about the whole idea of starting a podcast made me to doubt in the abilities that I had within me already, but they were not yet tapped into. But I doubted in these abilities if I would actually pull this off. Because of course, starting a podcast is not just me knowing that podcasts exist and oh, I love to listen to podcasts. That's not enough for me to start a podcast. Having lack of information about what it means to even start a podcast, how does podcast operate, which type of podcast do I want to start, how do I want to run my podcast, the conversation that I want to be having, my target audience, all these things were necessary information I needed to know if I wanted to start a podcast before now. And of course, since I never had this information, it was natural for me to have self-doubt in myself if I could even pull off starting a podcast. So if you're seeing yourself doubting in your abilities to start something, then it might be that you lack the necessary information about that particular thing. That's one reason why you might be doubting in yourself if you can actually pull this off, because you don't have the informations that can literally help you to believe in yourself that this is something that you can actually do. And away from that, self-doubt can be fueled or influenced by lack of clarity. So of course you're starting out something, especially when you're starting a business or a project, right? Clarity is very important. When you have clarity in whatever thing you want to get started with, you are going to have confidence in yourself that this is something that you are going to pull off. Because clarity can look like this. Oh, I want to start a business. Where am I going to start this business? Oh, I want to start a business. What are the values am I going to bring into this business that's going to make me to stand apart from others that have already started a business? Because now it's obvious that everybody wants to start something, and it's mostly related to starting a business. And all the business that people are put on getting their hands into these days are businesses that other people have already started. So if you want to start your own business, gaining that clarity of how you're going to bring added value into your business is something that can make you have confidence that, oh, even though people have started this, I am definitely going to succeed because I'm going to have something different I'm going to bring to the table, and my customers are going to be in search of me because of this value that I know and I'm clear about that I'm going to give to them. But if you lack clarity, of course, you are going to have self-doubt in yourself. And that lack of clarity I had in the beginning made me to doubt in my abilities if I'm going to actually pull off a podcast. So yeah, that was something I struggled with that made me to have self-doubt when I started to entertain the whole idea of starting a podcast. And away from that, the other struggle that you can get that can lead you to literally be doubtful about your abilities is lack of experience. Lack of experience is the ultimate one for me. So basically for me, when I was starting out with getting my podcast together, experience was one thing I lacked. There was no place I had been before that taught me how to be a host. I'm a science student to start off with. You know how these things be like. When you're a science student, it's hard for you to want to. These days, I think I see people doing it, but before now, it's hard for you to want to go and, do something else with somebody else's dream. And you know that this particular thing that I'm doing is mostly related to people that are in art stream. So as a science student, I took myself from that particular lane and decided to come to this lane. Imagine how hard it was for me. I had no experience with being in front of a camera. I had no experience with having this particular confidence that I feel I have now when it comes to communicating my thoughts in a very articulate way. I lacked experience about the basics of basics when it comes to starting a podcast, and there was so much going on that I needed to really deal with like that. So these are the things that I naturally was faced with as obstacles that fueled the inability I felt like I had within me to believe in myself, right? Okay, So away from self-doubt, the next obstacle that one is most likely to be faced with is the need to want to control the outcome. So this particular one swept me off my feet. And the one thing that can fuel this obstacle within you that can cause you to be hesitant is the need to be perfect. That's one reason why most of us want to control things, want to control the outcome of whatever thing we've just get started with or we want to get started with. We want to know how the future will look like as soon as we just started. At times we want to control every single thing because we don't want to make a mistake. And that in a lie do. And then that part you na lie you lie. Na lie I lie. As I be one for do that need to me safe, na lie I lie. Because as much as that helped me a whole lot, it was something that was turning out to be toxic to me. Because my mental health started to be at stake. Now I was overthinking things. I was becoming drained with the whole idea of like wanting things to go exactly as I planned it, and knowing fully well that things will go wrong and wanting things to not go wrong was the hardest thing for me to accept. But that's the fact. Things are definitely going to go wrong. And that fear of wanting things to go exactly as you planned it in your head can make you to be hesitant for a very long period of time. And I dealt with this as well. So the next obstacle is the need to have every available resources or materials before one gets started. This one is the ultimate reason why most of us are still hesitant to start, and this was my ultimate reason. Like, Naya be the bing bing, Naya be the bing bing. We be to say, I feel like without this particular part sealed, I will not get started. And this is the picture that I can paint for many of us when it comes to this particular obstacle. So you've envisioned you having a particular amount of money before you start a business. You've envisioned how you want to have all the necessary gadgets before you start your YouTube channel. You've also envisioned how you want things to go when it comes to starting that project, and how you just want everything to be in place, like nothing should be out of sight when it comes to you having all the materials you need. And in your mind now, you believe that if you have all the things you know you need, then ultimately you are going to be successful at that particular thing. And I feel like that's the belief I had as well about me starting my podcast. I wanted to have so many things before I started the podcast. I was in need of a tripod stand. I was also in need of a ring light, and as well I was in need of a very good phone. Like, this one was not even the one I wanted to use. Imagine. So I had high hopes. That's a very good thing. But yeah, I'm here using the one I never planned to use, because I had to realize that the reality is something that is just what you're going to be dealing with at the end of the day. And if you decide to ignore your reality and be constantly fixated on what you think you should have and how you think you should have them, and if you don't have them, you're not going to start, then you're going to constantly be hesitating for a very long period of time. So guess what, guys? This was the image I had in mind for my podcast. Like, when I wanted to start it, this was the image I had in mind. But this is what is going on right now. This is literally what is happening. And I had to really just embrace my reality. And that's how I think all of this is happening right now. And the last obstacle is defining your why. So if you've not yet defined your why do you want to start a business? Why do you want to start this particular project of helping children? Why do you want to start a YouTube channel? Like, why do you really do want to start it? If you've not yet defined your why, then you're definitely going to be held back by not having all the gadgets you need, by not having all the materials you think you need to start, because your why is going to make you have that faith and belief in yourself that even if you don't have the materialistic things that you need in your possession now, then your why should be a reason that should be good enough for you to act. That's how powerful your why is. So, not defining my why made me to entertain the idea of not having all these gadgets that I felt like I wanted, because I felt like these things were very important. Not knowing that there was power in defining my why. And since I actually faced all these obstacles, defining my why was the last thing that literally made me to act. But let's tap now into the actionable solutions that one can take to deal with all these reasons that can cause one to naturally just be hesitant when they're on their journey of getting started with anything. It can be a business, it can be a project of any sort. So the first one is self-doubt, right? So the actionable step that one can take to help themselves eliminate self-doubt gradually is by getting the information, which, as I mentioned, is one thing that influences your inability to believe in yourself. Get the information that you need about that particular business that you want to start. Get yourself to the point where you are just so aware of what you are getting yourself into. When you become so informed about what you are getting started with, then you are going to be confident that you know what you are getting yourself into in the first place. So that's how you can go about that. The other one, which is gaining clarity, requires you to really just tap into why you are even starting that business. Gain clarity on what you want people to know about you concerning your business and how you are going to set yourself apart. You should really take your time to make this a point of duty for you to want to tap into and engage in the more, and give yourself that opportunity to exhaust the idea of how you really don't want people to take your business. What are the different things that you are going to be bringing into the market that you feel like your customers should want to come and buy things from you or get their things from you, or whatever that you're offering from you? So clarity is something that needs your time. It needs your time. Invest your time into it to just be figured out and more clear about what you are about and what your business is going to really offer people, that is going to be different from every other person. Yeah, and clarity for me really helps. It helped a lot. I feel like having clarity in why I want to start the podcast helped me a whole lot to believe in myself that, oh, of course, everybody has started their podcast, but it's not going to be as similar to what everybody is doing, because my own purpose of starting the podcast is really different, and it's as a result of my own journey and struggles of how I have seen being a human can look like, and the lack of information about being a human can cause us to literally go through hurdles and struggles of things that we feel like it's very hard for us to tap into and overcome. But with awareness and knowledge about these things, one can easily get to a point where we can actually not be so confused when we are on this journey. That's one of the clarity I had to get for myself about my podcast that made me to believe in myself that I'm definitely going to set myself apart by just getting this awareness of why I am starting my podcast and what I am bringing to the table. So the next one, which is experience. Gaining the experience is very crucial, because when you have experience about something, you are definitely going to have self-confidence that you're going to pull things off. And for me, how this looked like in my own life was I had to really learn the art of communicating. So practicing is something that can be daunting, but of course it has its benefits, and over time you can really see the benefits of repeatedly practicing something for a long period of time, and you can definitely bet that you can get better over time. But again, there's just this one thing I want to forget. So gaining the experience doesn't just look like you being practical. At times, you gaining the experience can literally come from you hearing from other people's testimonies of how they might have started their own business or might have started that particular venture that you want to get into. This particular information that you can get from other people's testimony can give you experience indirectly. So it doesn't mean that, oh, because of you want to start selling clothes, you have to go learn practically how to sell clothes. No, but you literally can just have the experience by hearing from other people's testimonies, probably from YouTube or from people that you know that are in the same country as we are right now. Hearing from them can literally help you to make a difference as well. That's how you can get experience away from being practical. So the other thing that I mentioned that is an obstacle is you wanting to get things right. You just want the outcome to be as perfect as you envisioned it. So for you to deal with this particular obstacle that can cause you to be hesitant for a very long period of time, what you need to do is you need to have a measurable timeline for the things that you want to accomplish, so that you cannot be a perfectionist over everything. Having a measurable timeline helped me a lot with this podcast because honestly, I was very perfect at being a perfectionist. But having a measurable timeline helped me to know when I should actually tackle a particular topic, how long I should take on investing my time in gaining the research I need about this particular topic, and then when it comes to me delving into this particular topic and understanding how it relates to me was something I had to do as well. All these things take time. So if I'm going to waste time with the research and I'm not particular about what is enough for me to just get started with relating now with myself, then I'm being a perfectionist, and at some point I'm hesitating to literally just do the thing and get things done, and that can be super negative because honestly it is draining. So for you to really help yourself to not be in that position, get a measurable timeline. That can literally save you time, it can save you your energy, it can save you this whole thing of being exhausted, and it can help you to move on very fast and not be hesitant excessively. And then the last thing that you can do about the whole thing of being a perfectionist is get yourself a perfectionist dictator. This is one thing that has helped me to really take action when it comes to starting this podcast. Finding a perfectionist dictator must not be hard for you to get, honestly. This literally can just be a friend that you know can be very honest with you when it comes to how long you have been taking on crafting a particular idea. And I had that one person in my life that was so bold enough to tell me the truth that, my darling, I know that you really do want things to look like this, but guess what? This is where you are at right now. At this point, gaining the experience and putting yourself out there is what is literally going to help you to get all these answers you think you might want to have figured out right now. You just need to start. You are ready and okay to go. That particular person is one that you really do need in your life. So yeah, for you to really deal with this particular area as well, you might want to get yourself a perfectionist dictator. So the next obstacle, which is the need to have everything in place, all the available resources that you need, the materials that you need to get started. What now can you do about this? The actionable step that you can take about this is get started with the less you have and do more with less. Get started with the less you have and do more with less. I know that this is very easy to say, but it's very hard to do because I found it very hard to do as well. Well, honestly, the thing that really helped me to digest this particular thing that I'm telling you now is someone made me to realize that the point that you are at when you actually want to start out with something, considering now that you don't have all the right equipment that you think you need, the materials, enough materials that you think you need to get started, high tendencies are you are going to attract your right audience or customers for that particular business or venture that you want to get started with. And that is something I really do believe in. And it's as a result of that particular saying that I took action when it comes to eliminating the whole sort of, okay, I wanted things to happen like this, but this is where I'm at. I am still going to do it anyway. I'm going to do more with the less that I have. And I don't know how this is going to motivate someone out there to start doing something they feel like they don't have much to do. At the end of the day, I believe, say, I'm doing more with the less I have, and it's really making me feel good about myself. My self-esteem is skyrocketing right now because I know that I'm not going to stay in this particular place. I'm going to grow, but I had to start. I had to start because I don't want to be perfect anymore. Everything is not perfect, this is not perfect, and this is how I really like it. Because I'm showing you that this is something that can really work this way as well. It doesn't have to be very perfect before you put yourself out there. You literally just have to start with what you have and gain the right audience or the right customers that is meant for you to attract. So the last obstacle, which is lack of clarity in your why, will mostly cause you to be hesitant. How you could deal with this? So this basically was where I was at in my journey, and I think this was the last thing I had to deal with. And when I dealt with it, this is the reason why I'm actually starting this podcast right now, because I literally defined my why. It was a change of mindset actually that occurred, and this thing that changed my mindset is what I'm going to share with you as well. So defining my why made me to get to a point where I decided to ask myself why I really wanted to start the podcast. Like, what was this podcast about? And when I thought of it, the whole aim of my podcast is to be having a conversation about everything that is not perfect. And come to think of it now, if I was very hesitant about starting because I wanted a specific idea in my mind in terms of how I want things to look like, considering now that I'm lacking certain gadgets that I still need, I was like, what's going on, Paulina? It's not that you don't have things that can help you to pull things off. You are literally trying to have things in a specific way you felt like it should happen, and since it's not happening like that, you are unwilling to take action, and it's as a result of you trying to be perfect right now. That's all I can see. That's what I literally told myself. And I was like, nah, it's not the truth. I'm like, really? So okay, now why you don't want to start? You already get phone. Like if you know for be your phone, I for be understand. But you already get phone, don't you? And you even get lights for actually help you for gender lighting where I feel say very necessary for the people you see fine. So why you not starting? And I was like, okay, but I thought that we had a plan to make the room in a very specific way. And I was like, yeah, that too. But I'm like, isn't this okay, guys? Like honestly, isn't this okay? It's okay. When I realized that I can actually shoot with this particular background that you are seeing now, I was like, why the heck was I taking time to do the thing? Why was I taking time to take action? And I was like, gosh, girl, we need to do this thing. Stop being perfect. Like, just stop being perfect. And my purpose of starting this podcast is as a result of me wanting to talk about everything that is not perfect and me showing you now that I am doing this thing and I'm not trying to be perfect at it. Makes me to feel happy that I am not just here saying things, but I'm actually doing it. And that is to show you that everything does not have to be perfect before you get started. I do believe in the fact that I can grow, and I do believe in the fact that my message and what I have to share with people is so important and powerful enough for me to make that a reason for me to start, compared to now me having all these gadgets I feel I have. These things I believe will come with time, and I know them will come. Literally, I know them will come, but not having them and not starting breaks my heart. I'm wondering now the opportunities I can actually just miss if I decide now to not put this thing out there. So that's it, guys. That's all for today's conversation. Remember, we talked about hesitation. We now know that hesitation is as a result of a pause or delay in taking action or making a decision, and this can be often due to uncertainty, fear, or doubt. Away from that, we tapped into the four obstacles that one is most likely to be faced with when they're on their journey of getting started that can cause them to be hesitant. The first one is self doubt. The other one is the need to control the outcome. The next one is the need to have all the available resources in place before we get started. And the last one is lack of clarity in one's why. So these are the four obstacles that you can naturally face that can cause you to be hesitant. And away from that, we also talk about the actionable solutions, that if you really do want to deal with the whole idea of not being in a position where you are doubting yourself, then you should get the information, you should get clarity, and you should get the experience. And for the need to control the outcome, which is something we consider to be related to the perfectionist trait that exists in everyone, can be solved by you having a measurable timeline and also a perfectionist dictator, that one friend that can be so truthful to you enough for you to just take action. And the next thing we talked about is the need to have all the available resources in check before you take action. I know how this feels like, and the actionable step I shared with you about this is you literally just have to get started with what you have and where you are at. And lastly, we talked about lack of clarity in defining your why. The power that lies in defining your why can literally help you to go from hesitation to action. And that was the last thing I was faced with that literally helps me to get to this point of acting right now. So that's it, guys. I wish you success in whatever project or business that you want to get started with. I hope to see you in the next conversation. Till then, tata.